Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you, members of the media, for joining me and wider Barbados through our Facebook Live. When discussing the state of Barbados's international reserves earlier this week, the Minister of Finance, Chris Sinckler, urged the Barbadian people not to panic. We would concur that panic is seldom a productive reaction. However, the Minister fails to understand that the government's practice of infrequent release of information itself breeds distrust and fear. This government seems surprised that even at a time of national crisis, the people of Barbados want even monthly updates. Minister Sinckler, if there is no need for regional economists such as Ms. Dukaran to be concerned, then why has the government of Barbados refused to release the 2017 Article 4 report approved by the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund in January? Indeed, that report was released on the same day that the governor of the central bank did his update to the country down to the end of December 2017. The publication of Article 4 reports is widely considered around the world to be a practice that is highly desirable in order to support transparency in economic policy making and indeed to encourage strong investor relations. It is only troubled governments, my friends, fearful of political fallout, that refuse to publish IMF reports, especially when those IMF reports contain criticism. While we have been the first to question the prescription of austerity of this government, we believe that transparency and openness to debate are essential in our democracy. And we note that the IMF Article 4 reports from the Barbados Labour Party years are available for you to scrutinize. Indeed, this is not the first time this government has failed to publish such a report. What is in the document, Minister Sinckler, that you do not want the people of Barbados to find out as elections loom? That is the question he must answer. If there is no need for ordinary Barbadians not privy to the facts to worry, then indeed, Minister Sinckler, why are there rumors circulating that the central bank is desperately knocking on doors, pleading with our financial institutions to pledge their foreign assets and those of their clients in order to allow the central bank to use these assets to raise emergency external loans on a secured basis? Why? When the central bank reports on the first quarter results later this month, in April, will the central bank governor confirm these last-ditch schemes, which skirt, indeed, outside the parliamentary approval process because Parliament is no longer meeting, or will they be denied? Minister Sinckler knows full well that our reserves are now at crisis level. 6 weeks' worth of imports, half of the Central Bank of Barbados' targets if the people of Barbados are to be told the truth and are not to panic. We need to have the facts. We need to have the details of how the government plans to save our dollar. In simple terms, how will you save the Barbados dollar? This must be a credible plan that goes to the heart of our economic malaise and not the pathetically relied upon uncertain plans that he has put before us, 7 of which have failed, not the one-off fire sales that he is purporting of Barbados' national assets for a temporary recovery for our reserves to a level that will make him look acceptable in his eyes, not the country's eyes and not the international eyes. The minister is totally out of his depth. And Minister Sinckler is swimming in water that is really too deep. I'm not going to have any debate with him on the economy because he is looking for a political landing platform. The governor of the central bank, on the other hand, needs to take notice, and he must decide which god he as governor of the central bank is serving, Barbados or the Minister of Finance. And I've said this before, the governor must determine whether he is a servant of the people or a creature of the Minister of Finance. It is our contention that he must be a servant of the people of Barbados. And the laws governing his creation, his appointment, and the central bank are very clear. To tell us, as the Minister of Finance would want the governor to tell us very shortly this month, that our reserves are good because they're at $420 million at the end of March, $10 million more than they were at the end of December, is to distract when they know that the trajectory generally is going downwards. When he and everyone else in the financial sector locally knows that the central bank has been desperately seeking to get a loan of 100 million US dollars and to ask people to bring back home the second tier reserves. Chris Sinckler, you are swimming in waters too deep for you, and you need to stop it, and you need to zip it up and stop fooling the people of Barbados. The minister needs to speak plainly to the people and to the country, but maybe that is what he's afraid of. Barbadians need, for example, to be told, one, how many times has the Minister of Finance been written by the same governor of the central bank with respect to the state of affairs? Has it been 4 times? And when were you written? Have you been told that there's an urgent need to seek foreign financing to support the reserves, given the delays in the planned divestments and the high levels of foreign debt financing that the country must face over the course of the next few months? Has the Minister of Finance determined why it is he will not release the IMF Article 4 report for last year, knowing what I just said just now, that will only breed confidence in this country's economy? Holding it back will take away confidence. Has the Minister of Finance been ready to tell the country, or indeed will the governor tell the country, that there were no foreign debt payments in March, unlike February, so that if you had a dip in February, it is because of the foreign debt payments, and that there were none in March, and that when combined with the inflows from the CDB and the IDB and CAF, it meant that the decline in what would otherwise be higher receipts in tourism month March did not necessarily come, so that you have a flattening in March as opposed to the drop in February, and that this decline will come again, that there will be more than $330 million in foreign debt payments in the next 12 months, provided over the next 12 months, and less than $100 million coming in. And that $330 million in foreign debt payments is provided that there is no further downgrade, credit downgrade, because every credit downgrade increases the interest rate and hence the amount of money that we have to pay. So on the one hand, you expect to get $100 million in official foreign inflows from from the Caribbean Development Bank, from the Inter-American Development Bank, from CAF, from the Canadian Crown Corporation, but you will pay out, because of the foreign debt that you have, $330 million in the next 12 months. And the first date with destiny is in fact in June. Further, that the increase that he is showing between December 31st and March 31st that the governor will come and announce is $10 million. And that is less than half of what it was last year when the funds increased by $23 million. So these are smoke mirrors. What will be the fate in June? That's what he needs to tell us. How much foreign debt must be paid in the month of June? Is it not more than 3 times what you have paid in the month of February? Is it not $120 million that we have to look for to pay in foreign debt in June? And that will be in June, may I remind you, just after the date by which an election must be held. So that the first thing that a government will do, a new government, will be to have to look to find that money at the same time that it is looking to constitute a cabinet and to have a parliament resume to be able to do the business of the people of the country. In addition, can the minister tell us whether there is a central bank projection that places the worst case scenario of our reserves as low as $100 million in December of this year? So that this is not a laughing matter that you can come and just talk about arbitrarily. And it is against this background that I say to the people of Barbados now that the governor of the central bank must truly come and speak plainly to Barbadians and not allow a minister with an electoral interest to serve to paint a picture with his clear blue-colored lenses, because they can't be the same opaque and transparent color with the information that we have. The minister is consumed with telling us that his policies are working. That is his only interest. And the minister is taking figures out of context deliberately. This reminds me, I must tell you, of a story I once heard in Parliament of a man who jumped out of the skyscraper from the 120th floor. And when he passed the 30th floor, he said, "So far, so good." That is exactly what is happening with Barbados' reserves. And this notion that better cannot be done is a nonsense. There is too much mock sport that is now being made about Bajans and our economy and the state of our country. Our debt has been unsustainable for years now. I have said it, Clyde Maskell has said it, Ryan has said it, Marsha has said it, Santi has said it, Jerome has said it, the former Prime Minister has said it, Minister David Eswick has said it, independent economists have said it. In the words of John King, how many more must say it? And we have said all along that there is a way out of this economic malaise. We have said over and over, last year after the budget debate at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, that we must do whatever it takes and whatever is legal and moral and whatever makes sense to local, regional, and international community and economists to save our dollar and to save our country and our people. But for us, we said also that we need to see the data, and we need to see it unvarnished, and we need all of the facts, all of the arrears. If things are getting better, then why has the Prime Minister abruptly terminated negotiations with the National Union of Public Workers and the Barbados Workers Union? Why is it that the Minister of Finance's idle boast of VAT returns causes Bajan businessmen to ponder? Some people, yes, have had VAT returns, but they've said, at what cost? Has it been at 20%, 30% cost? I don't know. But what I do know is that everybody has not gotten their VAT returns. Look, Barbadians need independent data, and we need it as soon as possible. We cannot continue to wait. People need to understand how serious the country is, what is going on. They want to know what are our true vital statistics. Jerome is here, he's a surgeon. He'll tell you that you have to know what the vital statistics are. The blood pressure improving early in the morning on one day and then dropping dangerously low again the next day or the next week can't be a measurement to tell you that the patient is out of the woods. That's nonsense. That's madness. We all know it. We all know what it is to deal with an ailing relative. The truth is that we have the facts before us that the underlying bleeding will resume with a vengeance in June and in December. And as a government is trying to constitute itself one way or the other, and as a parliament is trying to resume to meet, we got to be running about looking for $120 million in foreign payments in circumstances where they know that there are problems. In addition to that, if the minister has nothing to worry about, as I said, release, as the Bajans say, if his man, release the 2017 Article 4 report. Release it. Let the country read it. Let the investors read it. Let the independent economists who we are cursing read it. But what is more important than even the minister's actions to me at this stage is the governor of the central bank, because he has been put, in my view, in an awkward and invidious position, because there's no doubt that the minister in his statement carried in Barbados today, my friend, was intended to write the governor of the central bank's quarterly statement for April that is due in a week or two. There's no doubt in my mind that the minister was trying to put pressure on the governor of the central bank, causing people to believe that the nation's back page story, because that's all it does for me, caused me to believe the nation's back page story from the IDB, that there is little independence and transparency at the Central Bank of Barbados. Bajans would have woken up to the very awful news on the back page of the nation that the IDB and the study shows that Barbados' central bank is number 85 out of 89 central banks lacking in transparency and integrity and independence. And that is why, if you go back in your own reports, you have seen me over the course of the last 4 years talk about the need for increasing the independence and the autonomy of the Central Bank of Barbados. There was a time when the governor of the Central Bank spoke and Bajans could rely on it. Not anymore. And not because necessarily of this governor, but the reality is that the disconnect between what is our reality and what Bajans are feeling with what is being portrayed in these quarterly reports makes no sense. So that the governor, in my view, in order to restore confidence in people's sense of what role the central bank is playing, the governor needs to tell the country what is it that he wrote in those 4 letters to the Minister of Finance, and what is it that he believes are his duties under sections 25 and I think it's 47 or 48 of the Central Bank Act. One dealing with foreign reserves, where he has a duty to write the Minister of Finance when they get dangerously low, as they are, and one dealing with the printing of money and monetary instability, which is endangered because of the printing of the money. And is he in a position as well to tell us whether he has advised the Minister of Finance that there would have to be a resumption of either the printing of money by the central bank or the building up of arrears because of the continued commitments at the domestic level with respect to the deficit and the inability to appropriately finance the deficit. The money from the sale of the Hilton and the money from the sale of BNTCL are one-offs. But what they're being used for is to finance the deficit. They're not revenue. So that they're being used as a source of financing to bridge the gap between how much you spend and how much you earn. That's all it is. But when you take one-off revenue to do that, my man, where are you getting it from next year? The underlying problem is still there. So we believe that the minister must stop attacking independent economists. I hope and pray that the independent economists will not take fear. They must continue to speak out, and they must speak out and speak truth to power, because this is the nature of the democracy that we have. This minister is completely out of his depth, and in simple words, he needs to zip it. He needs to zip it, zip it, zip it, and he needs to stop fooling Barbadians. It is no longer cute to be trifling with our economic well-being. We cannot be the props of Chris Sinckler's re-election campaign, and certainly not the Democratic Labour Party or Frondell Stewart's re-election campaign. Simply, Barbadians need the facts as they are ready to make decisions about their future. We are in that period of time where less than 8 weeks and 5 days are left within which an election must happen. And people need to have the facts in order to decide, am I going right? And I say right is to the BLP, or are we going left? Are we going to be left behind with Frondell Stewart and the Democratic Labour Party? And these things have to be done such that we can get on with our lives and we can get on with the business of fixing this country rather than waiting in la la land as we have been doing for the last few weeks. Are there any questions?